How's it going, everyone? I'm Geeks, and today we're going to be picking up with the 2005 Geoff Johns run of Green Lantern, issues 14 through 17, the Wanted Hal Jordan arc. In my last video, we touched briefly on how some assassins were coming after Hal, and he was breaking international law to try to hunt these guys down, which was pissing off a lot of countries, and also even annoying some superheroes, which is never a good sign. And now we're going to get into the consequences of those actions of breaking all those laws. But this story starts out with a memory from when Hal was chosen by the Power Ring and taken to a dying Abin Sur, a story we know very well. But the memory here is wrong. Hal goes to accept the ring, but right before he gets it, an angry Abin punches him in the face, taking back the ring and telling him that the ring doesn't belong to him. He tells him that he's not worthy of the ring, and he abandoned all his friends and those who relied on him. His memories flash forward to a time when he was taken as a prisoner of war and how he had to listen to a cowgirl being beaten in an effort to break him. He listened until finally he did break, just not in the way the captors wanted. He smashed a guard's face in, stole his weapon, rescued cowgirl and his friend Shane Sellers, and escaped. Hal wakes up from this dream remembering how all of the members of the Justice League assumed that he was just off on some Green Lantern business, so no one even really questioned it or went looking for him. They all apologized to him except for one, Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, his best friend. All he said was the same thing Hal tells himself every day: you should have kept the ring on. Later that day, Hal is talking with General Stone, who is surprised to learn that Cowgirl didn't tell Hal that they found the kidnappers. Cowgirl was sent with the team after them, but got hit and they lost contact with her plane. This left Hal furious because he didn't know about this and rushes to his locker to power up his ring. This time he will absolutely not let any of them get away, and he flies off to where her plane went down, Moscow, Russia. The Russians, of course, have already warned Green Lantern about going to their country, and as soon as he enters their airspace, they immediately become hostile towards him and start attacking. Hal kind of ignores them for a second to search for the captors, and he recognizes some of the voices, and now that his ring is translating for him, he knows that they're scared. He also reflects a bit on how something that took him months to escape now only takes seconds with the ring. He meets his old captor, Bones, who immediately recognizes him and smugly repeats what he said when they were in the prison. When she breaks, so will you. This enrages Hal, but at that moment, an explosion goes off, killing all of the guards. The Global Guardians, which is a kind of mercenary-like superhero group, show up and frame Green Lantern for these murders so that they have permission to actually wage war against him now. Meanwhile, the assassin Hunter Dog contacts an alien man saying he's on Green Lantern's trail, to which the alien responds that he may have some competition. The alien then reports to a mysterious man that the bounty has been doubled and he'll be brought in dead or alive. The mysterious man, though, says that he wanted him alive because he wants to prove how unworthy of the ring he is before bringing Hal Jordan to his eventual demise, leading up to the reveal of this being Abin Sur's son, Amon Sur. Hal starts fighting with the Global Guardians and tends to hold his own for a bit, even if he may be slowly starting to get overwhelmed, when two bounty hunters arrive named the Faceless Hunters and bind Hal using their telepathy powers. The alien henchman Lorag tells Amon that Hal has been captured, and Amon wants to make sure that he's in the vicinity when Hal's killed because he knows the ring is programmed to seek out the nearest replacement, which he believes will be him. This guy's logic seems to be pretty jacked up though, since I don't think the ring will necessarily go to someone who sanctioned the murder of another Lantern. Not sure if anyone ever told him exactly what the ring looks for in a replacement, because I'm not sure if he knew he would be going about it this way. Meanwhile, in the antimatter universe on the planet Querd, the people have been enslaved and forced to build what appears to be the beginnings of a central yellow power battery. As the telepathy hunters are dragging Hal away, they can feel his willpower struggling to break free and decide that they may need to wipe his mind clean like they did to the Global Guardians. But just then, the Russians show up in an effort to capture Green Lantern themselves. They destroyed the bindings holding Hal and ironically set him free. Hal tries to tell everyone he didn't murder anyone and that he'll leave Russia as soon as he finds his friend, But just then he gets hit in the back with a magic blast, and when Hal turns around to see who it is, the entire Justice League has arrived to stop Hal, with Alan Scott leading the charge. Even though the Justice League is angry with Hal, they don't want him in Russian custody and are trying to take him back home. Wonder Woman actually makes a joke and tells Hal that when they had heard that the Green Lantern murdered a bunch of people, they had to actually take a vote on whether they thought he did it or not. They start fighting off the Russians, which is when Hal makes an attempt to flee. Speedy asks him to explain what the heck is going on, and Hal just says later. But Alan Scott steps in and says that the League broke at least a dozen international laws to come help him, so he will explain now. I love this page though, because you kind of forget about Alan Scott as a Green Lantern, and you forget just how badass he is. Even Hal recognizes that there's no way he can beat Alan at the moment, or even if he could, he couldn't afford to waste any time on that battle, especially if the rest of the Justice League were to step in. He decides that the best thing to do is actually just to explain himself like they've been asking all along. But he's smart, and at the same time he wills his ring to send out a bunch of probes into the forest to search for Cowgirl. Alan listens to Hal and recognizes the worry in his voice, and after Hal said everything, Alan understands and asks how he can help. Hal tells him to try and clear his name, hold off the Russians, and take the Global Guardians to Martian Manhunter to get a mental reset. But the rest is going to be up to Hal. Back at Edwards Air Force Base though, Amon Sur is killing a bunch of people looking for Abin Sur's extraterrestrial ship. And back at the prison camp, Cowgirl is being transferred to a new location where she decides it's time to take some action and crashes the car, killing one of the Russians and escaping into the woods. While she's running for her life, she ends up falling into a frozen lake, but just as that happens, the probes are able to locate her and Hal comes to the rescue. He takes her to get medical treatment, and as she's fading in and out of consciousness, she whispers, "Hal?" with a question mark, and he just replies with, "I'm so sorry," because he really does feel like all of this is just completely on him because he wasn't wearing his ring the first time they got captured. As they're going to leave though, Hal is hit in the back with multiple tranq darts by Dominator bounty hunters. His side starts to go numb, and the ring is working to counteract that when an explosion goes off, knocking out Hal, so that Hunter Dog comes in and can claim the bounty. Cowgirl stands up and yells at him, but Amon Sur tells Hunter Dog just to gut her and bring Hal to him. He wakes up in the desert, the same desert actually where Abin Sur died. Amon Sur tells him that Cowgirl is dead, and that it's time for Hal to take him to where Abin Sur died so that he can bury Hal there instead. Amon has explained that they used the head of a Manhunter 2.0 to drain his power ring, but yet the ring still won't come off his finger, though Amon says that it's not much of an issue since it'll remove itself once Hal's dead. We then cut to Batman back in Gotham City when a yellow ring flies towards him, saying that he has the ability to instill great fear. It's about to recruit him in the Sinestro Corps when Batman rips the ring off his finger using his willpower to override and reject this ring, and then just kind of question what the heck was that. Back in the desert, he tells Hal that Abin left before he knew his mother was pregnant, and by the time they were informed of Abin's death, Amon was already an adult. He was pissed at his dad for leaving and thought he'd make a name for himself in the Black Circle crime syndicate. He actually even got Kyle Rayner's ring once, but he said it wouldn't work for him for some reason, and he thinks that for another reason, Hal's will, since I guess he's not afraid anymore. He says that what he became was the Green Lantern's fault, and if his father was there, things would have been different. But it just so happens that our own protagonist lost his own father at a young age and tells Amon, "You're full of shit." His father wasn't there either, but that doesn't excuse any of the horrible things you do in spite of that. Hal then taunts him, telling him just to kill him already since this is a big test, right, to prove that you're not afraid anymore. To which Amon snaps back saying that he isn't afraid, and Hal just flat out calls him a coward. He needed bounty hunters to bring him in, and he didn't even let the bounty hunters leave since he was afraid Hal might fight back, and he'll need help because he is scared. Hell, even his hand is shaking. Amon loses it about how he's hunted down and slaughtered thousands of people, and he wasn't afraid of them, they were afraid of him. In his rage, he fires the blaster to kill Hal, but actually Hunter Dog steps in to block the shot and yells at him that he was supposed to give him a signal, and that signal was not getting roasted by a blaster. It's revealed now that it was actually Green Lantern John Stewart in disguise who's been undercover for the past couple months trying to figure out who was hunting Hal. He found the real Hunter Dog and gave him to Guy Gardner to place in a prison cell on Oa when he took his place instead. He found Hal and took out the Dominators. Hal allowed himself to be knocked unconscious to make it look more authentic, and Cowgirl was able to get to safety. John starts fighting Amon and his henchmen when Hal steps in to beat up Amon mano a mano. Obviously, Amon is pretty pathetic in getting his ass handed to him when all of a sudden the ring that Batman had just rejected flies to Amon, welcoming him to the Sinestro Corps. With Hal's ring out of juice, they're in a bit of trouble now since Amon has had a major power-up and he's full of fear that's just amplifying his own ring. Luckily, the yellow ring states that he must be evaluated for physical and psychological reconditioning, and he's teleported away. John says he's going to have to report this to Salak, and Hal visits the memorial of Abin Sur, apologizing before heading to see Cowgirl in the hospital. He visits her disguised as the Green Lantern and says he's sorry he wasn't there to help her the first time, but she says it's okay, but they've also got something else to talk about since she remembers who's under that mask. Epilogue. Back in Space Sector 3601, one of the Guardians locates the head of Hank Henshaw, aka Cyborg Superman, that was destroyed on the planet Biot during the previous arc when Hal and Guy went to rescue the Lost Lanterns. The Guardian then asks him what he's learned about the 52. Then, somewhere in England, a couple is hiking together when a pink rock falls to Earth. It then latches on to the woman and in the process ends up killing the man she was with. It says this isn't the body for the man it's looking for and flies off to Northern California, crashing down where the Star Sapphire asks which body does her chosen one desire. That's definitely not the last we're going to see of Amon Sur, but for now that's going to wrap up his arc and the assassins that he hired. It's always nice to see John back, and now we're really going to start getting some major hints and clues to the first major arc of this run, which I can't wait to get to. But I'm Keeks, I hope you enjoy this story, and I will catch you all next time to get into some Star Sapphire content.